started. I'm sure we'll have a couple more join us here, but thank you all and good morning. This is the Jumpstart or Restart Your Membership program here from ACEC Indiana, and we are thrilled to have you participating with us. My name is Drew Bender. I am your ACEC Indiana president for this year, 2022-2023. And really appreciate the opportunity and feel privileged to be able to do that with you. This is really about kind of getting involved in what we can do with you. And one of the things I know for us at VS Engineering, my firm, is that this has been just a tremendous value to us, both with our engagement in the various committees that we're going to talk about, but also the benefits that come from being a member of ACEC Indiana, both from a support standpoint, as well as really just an education and protection overall of the business of engineering and what it's done for us. I will mention just here at the beginning, if you have a question as we're going through, please feel free to ask it. You can use the chat function down at the bottom of the screen or also the Q&A function. So we'll be monitoring those. If they come within the flow of the presentation, we'll be glad to interrupt and ask a question at that point, or we'll do Q&A at the end as well. So feel free to make sure you utilize that, because this really is about getting your questions answered and getting information out to you. Joining with me also today, we have Mike Guzik from Lawson Fisher. He is our vice president for ACEC Indiana this year. Mike is also our national director, which means as we talk about kind of ACEC Indiana and ACEC National, Mike is the board representative from Indiana on the national board. So not only do we have an involvement here locally with ACEC, we also have it at the national level. And Mike steps into that role as our vice president. Kurt Heidenreich with REI is our secretary this year. Both of these are members of the board. All three of us are members of the board for ACEC Indiana, and each of us have highly engaged, both from a firm standpoint as well as an individual standpoint. And as we kind of move through this, allow us to be resources to you both today and in the future, just in terms of what ACEC Indiana can do for your company. If you really want to know how to get involved in ACEC Indiana, then you really need to know who the staff are, because these ladies do a fantastic job for us. They are stars in terms of representation of what it means to run an organization. And we have such a high performing organization, and it's thanks to Beth, her leadership as our executive director, and then both Colleen and Shelby in their roles. So get to know them. Outside of this, and they'll talk a little bit too as we go through here, but outside of this, if you have a question, okay, I learned this today and I really want to know how I get involved in it, these are the resources for you immediately to reach out and really get involved. From a committee standpoint, we'll talk about committees as we go through here as well. And really, both Colleen and Shelby have the committees divided up between the two of them, where they are engaged and really pushing and directing kind of the movement of those committees forward. And so if there's a particular committee that you are interested in the future, and we'll talk a little bit more about those, certainly getting involved in any aspect, the staff is there to help, and they do a tremendous job. Beth will talk a little bit about now kind of the structure from an ACEC standpoint.
Thanks, Drew. I appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. So ACEC Indiana is part of a national federation organization. So ACEC National represents thousands of companies and is the voice of the engineering industry in both Washington, D.C. and really throughout the country. And it's over 100 years old, so it's got longevity and is well respected. It has 52 state and regional councils, of which Indiana is one, representing more than 600,000 engineers, architects, land surveyors, and other disciplines. And that includes, I think, 3,500 distinct firms across the country. ACEC's primary mission is to strengthen the business environment for our member firms throughout government advocacy, political action, and business education. And that's our focus too. Moving on, ACEC National has under it a separate research institute. And the research institute is doing some really important work that's focused on our specific industry. They have done 3 recent studies, one on qualifications-based selection, QBS, and these resources are available either on the ACEC Indiana website, which we'll show you later, or you can also go on acec.org under QBS and find just a plethora of resources related to this recent study that you can use to make the case for why your clients should select you based on your qualifications. Another research area that they've expanded into over the last couple of years is in the private industry, and they'll provide data on a periodic basis really for the vertical market and other private markets. And when we receive that data, we include it in our Monday weekly briefings, our weekly email that goes out to all member firms. So if you're interested in private industry data and briefings, keep an eye open for that information in our weekly emails. Finally, ACEC National has been working on design build and how it's impacting the consulting engineering sector of the whole construction industry. And we look forward to seeing those results coming out soon. It's been a long working process, but we think that the results are going to be very telling to support the consulting industry's concerns. So let's move on from there. Finally, ACEC Indiana. This is our organization here just in Indiana, which represents your interests at the state and local level. So we have been around since 1959. Again, we've been here for a long time. We're part of the Great Lakes region. So we communicate, coordinate very closely with the other ACEC organizations that are within, our boundaries. And that helps us to identify trends that are occurring that may happen here first or are happening in other states so that we can be ready and prepared to assist with those issues. We have 111 consulting engineering firm members. Our membership is based on the firm, and 27 associate members, which represents more than 5,000 employees across the state. So we have a very strong voice on your behalf with policymakers and public officials and other clients. And we try hard to make sure that we stay focused on the business of engineering, representing civil, electrical, environmental, mechanical, and structural engineers. We currently have 3 staff, which you've seen, myself, Colleen Torres, and Shelby Dunn. And we're in the process of trying to hire a 4th staff member to really focus on what's become a #1 issue, and that is workforce development, trying to help the firms find talent and grow the talent in the future. So with that, Drew, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, you might wonder, how do we set priorities? How do we set, the initiatives that we're moving forward? And that really comes straight from our strategic plan. We just finished up our most recent strategic plan ending in the 2021-2022 year. And our calendar year, or our fiscal year for the organization runs from July 1 through June 30th. So all of our kind of board member tenures, all of our programs run from that timeframe. And our strategic plan then started up here in July of 2022 and will run through 2026. So back in 2021, as we were kind of approaching the end of our previous strategic plan, we had a committee that was pulled together to start to build on what was done in the past, but then tease out and pull out the priorities. We had workshops with members and an outside facilitator that came in and helped us really to hone in on the different core areas and then the metrics that kind of fall from that. At the board meeting, each meeting, as those move through the year, and we have one every other month, so 6 a year, we pay particular attention to the metrics and our progress on the strategic plan. It is a key element of what we review at our board meetings each of those to make sure that we are moving these forward in the proper manner. Those 4 main areas: advocacy, business resources and education, leadership development, and workforce development. And we'll talk a little bit more as we go through today about some of the specifics behind each of those. But I would encourage you, if you haven't, to go look at this. It's available online. It's available on our website. There's actually a tremendous amount of information both on ACEC Indiana and ACEC National's websites. I think a little bit later in the program here at the end, Colleen will do a little show and tell on the website so that you can kind of see how it's organized and how information kind of moves through that website and where you can find some resources. But for instance, if you're wondering, okay, I know there's this big infrastructure package that's come out. Where is that money flowing? How does it come? When will we see it? How is that being developed? What are some of the issues that we're seeing? ACEC National has a tremendous amount of resources on those types of topics that you can go pull and have that information available so that you're not alone in trying to figure this out by yourself. So I'd encourage you, if you haven't, to do the website there. As a strategic plan itself, I'll kind of go through a couple of these different areas, and let's start with advocacy as a main piece of that. It is a huge piece for us, and it's my personal favorite area. So our Government Affairs Committee, or GAC, as it's called affectionately, this is a group that gets together and meets during the session of members serving on that committee, looking at really what is going on from a legislative standpoint that impacts the business of engineering. We are engaged both at the state and at the national level, and it's important. There's only one engineer, only one PE that is in our Indiana General Assembly. So a lot of our issues, we're doing a lot of education to the members of the legislation in order, or legislators, in order to really help them understand what the issues are. And I should mention, a number of different things that are directly impacting us. Certainly funding is a big issue. And a lot of times, transportation seems to dominate because that is the largest source of funding that's out there. But also sustainable long-term water funding has been a huge push for us over the last 5 years to really engage that, get more involved. We've been able to pull money from the national into, as well as get items in our budget here in the state of Indiana in order to push forward funding for water, both at the local and state level. There are items like the building codes where, Indiana is one of only 2 states, if you can believe it, that does not require a structural engineer to inspect and sign off on large buildings as they're going in place. And don't ask me any specifics on that because it's a little bit outside my area, but I do know that when you're only one of 2 states that do not require a structural engineer to do an inspection on significant sized buildings, that potentially is a problem there. And so we have made a huge push from our vertical side of things to really try to get that addressed. We've been making progress over each of the legislative sessions, and we're very hopeful as we continue to move forward that we can get that updated and changed to reflect that. There's also times with our legislative partners where they are intending to do something good or intending to do something, and it has consequences that are outside of what they intended. So, for instance, this last session, one of the pieces of legislation that was put forward was to regulate dams. And actually, it was just really intended for a specific set of circumstances with a particular dam, but the consequence of the legislation as it was written was going to declassify or deregulate, is probably the better way to put that, a multitude of high hazard dams. And so we went with both members that were experts in this subject matter, brought them together with the DNR, went and met with the legislator who was pushing this for a particular reason, explained to him what the consequences were coming out of that, and then used both our membership and our expertise to go sit down and have that legislation rewritten and changed so that it achieved what he wanted, but then preserved the ability to regulate high hazard dams across the state, which would have been pulled and really put a greater public in danger without really intending to do that. We've seen that also with our professional licensing here in the state, as they have tried to put in a lessening of regulations on things like beauticians or different areas where maybe a complete license and things isn't necessary. And in doing so, have actually put legislation forward that would strip the need for the PE board and a professional engineering license in Indiana. So making sure that we preserve that is key. And there's a number of those types of issues. And so this really is a way for us as members to ensure that those things are preserved, that are good for our industry and good for the business of engineering. This also is a great way for you to get involved. And so, let me mention here QBS, because we also have a QBS committee. And QBS is another one of those things that constantly seems to be coming under threat, both in the local and private markets. If you don't know what QBS is, it's qualifications-based selection. And so really it's the idea that putting forward a product is not just low dollar. It shouldn't be bid out. Our services are professional services akin to something in the professional ranks such as a lawyer or a doctor, and you don't low bid your doctor in terms of who is going to treat you. You go after who is highly qualified and who is competent to do that work, and then negotiate with them a scope and fee after selection. And that's really what we are pushing as an industry. It is written into a lot of our requirements when you're talking about federal dollars and at the state level when using those, but there are areas still where it is not required. And so first off, education and moving through, getting out and teaching the benefits behind this. Beth mentioned the study from ACEC Research Institute, which is a great help in promoting and pushing forward with this. And our Qbs Committee has done a great job of looking for opportunities to do educational opportunities with the people that we're trying to reach who are making some of these decisions. Anytime you hear me mention the word committee, that is a great opportunity, and I'll talk about the committees here in a little bit, but be thinking in the back of your mind, oh, is that something that interests me? Is that an area of passion? Those are the types of things and areas to get involved in. And speaking of get involved, from an advocacy standpoint, we need you and really all of our members oftentimes. And so there's a couple different ways that you can do that. One is we may just put an issue out to all the membership to say, hey, this is a piece of legislation that's moving forward. We need your support for it. We need your opposition to it. We need you to call your local senator, your local rep, and say, hey, this is who I am. I would do that ahead of time in general. And it's a good opportunity for you to reach out oftentimes. And I've done this with ours, is send a note to them and say, hey, I live in your district, because certainly from a constituent standpoint, that carries a lot of weight. You'd be surprised at how few constituents actually reach out and the impact that that can have, because they do want to hear from folks that they represent. So just reaching out and saying, hey, here's what I do. I'm an engineer, I'm a scientist, I'm an officer at my firm, here's my role. I'm available to serve as a resource for you. If any of these questions come up, I can be involved and help you. Also, you can reach out to folks where you have an office, because not only from an individual constituent standpoint, but also from a, hey, we have X amount of people that live and work in your district. We're an important constituent for you from a business standpoint. And I would love to have you understand a little bit more about some of the things and issues that we face, or just be a resource to you to answer any of those questions. A lot of that comes from our advocacy, comes from our ability to get involved directly with these. And that's where we have two PACs that I'd like to bring to your attention. One is the ACEC National PAC, and one is the state PAC at the Indiana level. So from a national PAC standpoint, we usually do our call to contribute to that towards the end of the year and heading into the next year. We have a goal from national of money to raise, and we've been able to hit that goal heading into the year and be really the first state in the nation for the different ACEC organizations across the U.S. to meet our goals. And we're very proud of that. We find that that puts us in a great position both to receive support from national for some of our local issues here, as well as the support for the national issues that really impact us in ACEC Indiana. Those checks generally, or those checks have to be from an individual. We also have the ability at the state level to take monies from individual corporations. And those in our membership dues, which are collected here, the invoices for those just came out recently. And you will note on those that there is an ability to contribute, which I believe the suggested amount is 10% of your dues to the state PAC. The state PAC is very important because it allows us to spend time and contribute and support the members of the local state legislative body here, and really support the folks that are friends and supporting the business of the engineering community. We have one lobbyist full time that works with us in this role, and then both Beth and Colleen are registered lobbyists as well. Let's talk about another area in the strategic plan. This is our business resources and education section. Naturally, there is a sense that everything related to ACEC is engineering based, engineering centric. And that, of course, as the American Council of Engineering Companies, is natural. But the business side of engineering, which is really what our core is and mission is to support the business side of the engineering, is broader than that. And ACEC certainly recognizes that there is an area to support that business side that involves non-engineering. And so 5 years ago, there were forums that were developed as a program, and those center around finance, IT, HR, and just project management in general. And so those forums are ongoing. And this is another great way for you to get involved. Those are advertised through the emails that are sent out and on the website, and they occur at various times during the year. And so it gives you an opportunity, either yourself or to send some of your staff to different events where you can collaborate with your, other member firms and really share ideas, find maybe some business partners out there who would be willing to engage with you, and really just trade ideas back and forth and help support each other. And so those collaborations like that are invaluable because otherwise you're out there kind of on an island trying to figure out, how do I deal with this? Well, these are great areas from an overall resource standpoint to do that. There are other networking opportunities too, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the different committees that we have. And the committee assignments are done by a committee group, which at the board, ACEC Indiana board level, and puts those together each year. Those committee assignments really are made in April and May, and then get finalized and start, as I mentioned before, July 1, and run really for a year there in that. In addition to, kind of a 1 year on those boards, it's also kind of the envisioned is that this would be a 3-year time period. So someone named to a board would not just serve 1 year on a particular committee, but would really have a opportunity for 3 years to serve on that, and longer potentially. But that really gives someone the opportunity to settle in, work, get to know the way things work, and really start to make an impact. We want active members on these committees. The primary contact from your firm will receive an invite to submit, and it's their responsibility to submit those names in April of each year. Some of you on this call may be that primary contact. So if you're wondering, how do I get on to a committee, or how does someone from my firm, or how do we participate? It starts with that primary contact person submitting the names and making sure that those get in and to staff so that we can understand the interest and then move that forward. Let's talk a little bit about kind of the specifics, and you can see here from a committee organization chart how things kind of come together. We have really two different types of committees. We have our internal committees, which you can see there in the middle column in our org chart, and then our liaison committees, which are really kind of more of an external. We're there with some of our largest clients from a membership standpoint, and really externally focused. So generally, when you're looking, if you are a firm that is new to ACEC or new to really engagement in the committees, generally we start folks in the internal committees so that they get an understanding of how those work. And then after serving on an internal committee, can look to move, to an external committee from there. So our internal committees offer a wide variety of opportunities. So, diversity and inclusion obviously is a huge topic these days. We have a networking fair that is associated with that, but really not only supporting both our member firms who are involved in XPE programs, but also the connection between those XPE firms and our non-XPE firms that may need that introduction or are looking for that talent that's out there in terms of partnering opportunities between the different firms, but also just how do you do things at your office. So there's a tremendous opportunity within those committees, such as the DEI, where you're looking at opportunities for education, ideas, sharing information, and really moving those initiatives forward. I mentioned Government Affairs Committee. Workforce development is a huge one for us. And you look at a committee that has had a shape and an impact on our strategic plan. So the Workforce Development Committee was put together. And as that moved forward, the developments that came out of that committee really shaped what we did from a strategic planning standpoint. And then the strategic plan that moved forward really shaped our budget for this coming year. And so both the budget and the strategic plan really reflected what came out of that Workforce Development Committee in the search for a fourth staff member that was going to be focused on workforce development. So that's kind of, you get a sense of kind of how things develop from these committees and then how they kind of can move forward from there. If we could look at the external committees or the liaison committees, you can see kind of, I think probably the easiest to understand is INDOT, and the INDOT committee, it meets a number of times a year. It has a huge number of subcommittees as well because of just the large nature of the work and the amount of businesses within our industry that work for INDOT or have DOT and federal level contracts as their largest clients within their firms. And so it's a very popular committee to get on, and oftentimes, actually, for all of our committees, we have more applicants than we have seats. So we try to keep the seat on the actual committee to a level that creates both a broad engagement across all memberships, but also allows it to be a working functional committee. So generally, you're talking anywhere around 24, 26 people on a committee. And so inevitably, and we are very blessed with this situation, we have more requests to sit on a committee than we have seats available. And so it's very important from that standpoint that people on the committees are engaged, that they're active and that they're contributing. And more than that, on any of this stuff, that when you're sitting on a committee, you're thinking overall about the business of engineering from an ACEC standpoint, as a broad sense, as opposed to being there because you want to get what is best necessarily for your firm as opposed to the overall industry. We find that with ACEC in general and all these committees that you serve on, that what is good for the industry really helps and supports each of us individually. And it is very much a share, support, and collaborate atmosphere on these committees that really help to push us forward and make this a great place to be. So I mentioned kind of how tough it is to get sometimes on some of these committees with INDOT being a prime example. There are other ways to get involved, and the committee is not certainly the end-all be-all. In 2019, there was the Indiana Transportation Team, the ITT, which was established, and that is really the Department of Transportation as one leg of the stool, engineering community as a second leg, and then the contractors as a third leg, and trying to figure out how do we move the state of Indiana's program forward in the best way possible that really looks at a collaborative program. ACEC Indiana represents that engineering stool, and the Indiana Contractors Inc. or ICI represents the contractors tool. They are across all of 6 districts, plus there is a central office group that gets together. There are representatives on each of those leadership teams, both from INDOT, from ACEC, and from ICI. And then there are open meetings that each of the districts are having. There was just one recently in Crawfordsville. I know there's multiple ones coming up. I sit on the Vincennes District one and have for the last couple of years. It has been very active, and it has been a great collaboration. It also offers a huge opportunity just to get to know DOT staff or the contractors that are out there doing the work in a very friendly, constructive, collaborative environment. And so I can think of nothing that is more impactful from a membership standpoint than getting involved. This is an area that is of particular interest from you. And depending on where your offices are located, find the district that really is of interest to you. And that ITT team is a great way that is open to really everyone participating in the different events across the state of Indiana, and it is a huge opportunity. There are plenty more opportunities. Shelby is going to tell you a little bit more about some of those.
Yes, thank you, Drew. So in addition to all those great things that Drew mentioned, we also we host over 30 events each year that allow members the opportunity to network with both, the engineering community as well as clients of our engineering firms. And some of the top annual networking events that we host include our Coffee with Colleagues. That is a 1-hour quarterly virtual networking opportunity that is open to our entire membership. And this is a really loose agenda, open discussion with small breakout groups. And we have one coming up this next month, September 14th, and we'll talk more about some more upcoming events. But that's a really good opportunity for your firm to really open any discussion up with some other members and get to know those in our membership. We have our annual Engineering Excellence Awards, which we host in April, which I'll talk more about next. And then we have our annual recognition awards in June each year. And then our scholarship golf outing, which is a really fun event that we host in July, which raises funds for our scholarship program. And then we have our Diversity Businesses Networking Fair, which really highlights our XPE firms as our exhibitors. And that's coming up in November. So as I mentioned, our Engineering Excellence Awards, we host this each spring, and this showcases outstanding projects that engineering firms have completed. And this is really open to anybody. We have more upcoming on this later this month. So we'll have our submissions and call for entries coming out later this month. And this is an awesome promotion opportunity for your firm because there'll be about 250 industry leaders and clients in the room. So it's really good to get your firm out there and showcase your outstanding projects that you guys are working on. In addition to the project recognition, we also give out a diversity award, which showcases an XPE firm that leveraged an opportunity to exceed their client or owner's expectations, as well as a QBS award, which recognizes a client that procured professional services through QBS. And wherein the EAs recognize projects, our annual recognition awards in June recognize outstanding leaders of the engineering community. So some of those awards that are presented can include our Consulting Engineer of the Year Award, President's Award, our Public Service Award, Sagamore of Indiana Award, Virgil Gus Grissom Award, and then one that's really rising to the top each year is our Young Engineer of the Year Award. And then in addition, a major benefit of being a member of ACEC is being in the know of major client meetings and events. So on top of our Indiana rules and statutes and ethics courses that we offer online on demand with fresh content every biennium, we also host a variety of in-person education offerings, such as our RPR workshops with DPW that we host each February, and our Water Opportunity Workshop, which is coming up next month in September, and then our Designer Workshop with DPW, which is also coming out in September. So how to get involved right away with ACEC? Drew mentioned our forums. So we have our IT forum coming up in October, HR forum is in December, and then we host our PM forum in the spring. You can also serve on a committee, but if you're not currently serving on a committee, on our website, Colleen will show you later how to view all the meeting minutes on our website. You can get involved, like Drew was mentioning, with the ITT group in your local district. Attend, like I mentioned, the upcoming networking event, Coffee with Colleagues, which is completely free, open to anybody in our membership. And then also utilize or promote the Indiana rules and statutes and ethics courses with other Ps at your firm.
Shelby, thank you. Leadership development in ACEC has quite a bit to offer for all levels of your professional staff members. You know, it's these programs and events that your engineering professionals, they expand their peer group, they share experiences, but helps them grow as leaders within your organization. Beyond just facilitating their expanded professional growth, they return to your office, recognizing the investment you put in them, and increase their understanding of the business of engineering. The Engineer Leadership Program is by far the highest demand program ACEC Indiana offers. It's now nearing almost 20 years of class graduates. It's the keystone course that we offer, and it helps the future leaders within your firm. It's conducted from November to April with 4 two-day sessions that are conducted in person. It prepares a lot of hands-on activities, workshops, and facilitates a wide-ranging discussions to prepare the attendees for future leadership within the firm. Equally important in these sessions is the in-between session conversations that occur for the attendees. There's a lot of sharing, and to this day, I can personally say that I'm still in touch with some of the cohort that I attended with some years ago. Attendee candidates should generally have about 8 to 13 years experience, and they should have some leadership experience managing a team within your firm. The program is very much oriented to your rising stars and future leaders in your organization. Course content's listed on the slide, and it's changed over the years. This change in content is based on class feedback each year at the conclusion. Classes are limited to 24 attendees, and it fills up quickly each year. Getting a placeholder to Colleen is probably the easiest way to get in there. I think this year's class is already waitlisted. Pathway to leadership. You know, this is a regular question ascending the next rung of the ladder in ACEC Indiana. And what does that look like? Part of the benefit of ACEC Indiana is through your individual involvement, but also involvement of the staff within your firm. With the participation, it provides you a voice in a much larger group with engaged policy and decision makers throughout the state. Important part of this path is regularly wearing your ACEC hat as you represent industry with these decision makers. Drew kind of touched on that. What benefits the industry as a whole benefits your firm individually. Emergency Professionals is designed for your younger staff members. It introduces them to ACEC. Part of this involvement starts encouraging them to participate in ACEC Indiana on their LinkedIn page and other social media platforms. You might also ask your staff members to participate and attend emergency professional events. And a shameless plug, don't overlook the ACEC Indiana Scholarship Golf Outing. And this is where they will see their peers at other organizations and member firms that also support ACEC. Some of the past continuing education events have included networking, communication, their individual role in winning work, business of engineering, but also they have round table discussions with other more senior ACEC member professionals. Our most recent event was this past July, and it was a qualification-based selection 101 webinar. And it's, like I said, it's very much oriented to the younger professional staff members in your firm. Committee appointments, Drew's covered a great deal of the 12 committees and how that works. As he's covered, 6 of them are internal committees, and they address our issues and that affect our industry. The other 6 are the liaison committees, and most appointments start with an internal committee and then are again followed on with an external or liaison committee afterwards. Most of these committees are working committees, and so there will be task forces or individual subcommittees that will drill down to a specific issue that will be considered by the larger committee as a whole. Generally, these appointments are for 3 years, as Drew's already covered, and they are made by the ACEC principal contact. Essential with all the committee appointments is seeking increased levels of responsibility on that committee. Again, these are very much working committees, and in addition to your regular taskings, but it also provides an opportunity, particularly on the liaison committees, to influence policy or be part of policy development through the engagement at the committee level. You'll be interacting with peers in those liaison, as a liaison, and ACEC can cite and highlight several cases of involvement, particularly on the performance database scores, what the score sheets look like, and they listen to our opinion generally or our thoughts on matters as they are formulating policy. So again, it's the engagement portion and wearing your ACEC hat that's very important at these committee meetings. ACEC Indiana has 14 board of directors, and they are across member firms. They are elected to these seats on a 3-year term. They begin in July and they end in June 30th on respective years. Again, the requirements listed here, being an active member in ACEC, serving and on a committee, generally being a past committee chairperson, assisting with the recruitment of new member firms, involvement and attendance at ACEC events and programs, and again, participation with the state and national PACs. Again, wearing your ACEC hat, supporting ACEC Indiana, and helping with its advocacy and initiatives, it helps all our member firms. Leadership development to be a more inclusive organization. We want all our member firms and their employees to be able to achieve their full potential. Highlights include having one emerging professional currently chairing our education committee. And we also have 5 other of our 12 committees that are currently being chaired by women. Additionally, we have 3 women on our board of directors for ACEC Indiana. Part of Indiana's intentionality includes the Mentor Protege program, and this helps smaller firms pair with larger, more experienced firms for gaining different perspectives and a full range of business practices. The pairings brought a lot of breadth to the following business practices that are currently listed there. The interesting thing about it is that these relationships typically continue well past the formalized ACEC Indiana involvement. These are oriented toward firms with staff counts of 15 or less. Involvement is a key and essential element towards ACEC programs for leadership development. Part of this is just attending the events and participating in our offered programs. I am a product of the ACEC leadership program from 2009, and there's something for your staff at all levels, as you can see. The Principal Owner Summit is held both in the summer and winter, and I encourage your attendance if it fits your schedule. This winter's event will be in Rancho Mirage in Palm Springs, and it's across the last weekend in January. Like I mentioned earlier, the engineering leadership program is set up for the rising stars within your organization. The emergency professional program and its webinars are set up and oriented towards your younger staff members that are less than 35 years old. Something that I want to mention is on the near horizon, we will have a new graduate leadership program, and this is set up for the C-suite staff. The upcoming program is designed to provide follow-on course content for our engineer leadership program graduates. They've worked a few years, and now they have become the key leaders within your organization. Again, I can't emphasize, it is participation in ACEC Indiana as the first step toward developing the future leaders within your firm and acquiring that better understanding of the business of engineering.
Thank you, Michael. Colleen Torres with ACEC, and I have the privilege to share with you all our most recent addition to our strategic plan, the pillar of workforce development. So we're hyper-focused on this initiative as we do see the need to develop the long-term pipeline as well as working on the more short-term pipeline and attracting and retaining good talent for all of our ACEC member firms. So as I share our last pillar with you, I do want to remind you, if you have questions, I know we just have about 10 minutes left, so you can be adding those questions into the chat or Q&A function, so we can be sure to get that before our time is up. So as I mentioned, for the long-term pipeline, we are partnering with K through 12 schools throughout the year, and we're especially focused on this during the third week in February for National Engineers Week. And we started this program, this effort in 2014. And ACEC Indiana works to pair up volunteers from ACEC member firms along with volunteers from public perspectives representing, NDOT professionals, DPW, Citizens Energy Group, city and county highway engineers. And we get to go out into the schools to make presentations during that third week in February. And in this past year, we were making presentations in over 25 schools and reached out to over 2,500 students. So we try to make a really big impact and share the great opportunities available in the career of engineering. The second effort with workforce development would be retaining engineers and the disciplines that are associated with ACEC member firms' work. So we really want to ensure that we're doing making good touch points with all the ABET accredited universities in Indiana and continuing to promote civil, electrical, mechanical, structural, environmental engineering opportunities to the collegiate students. And each year we have a scholarship program wherein we give out about $17,000 to $18,000 for collegiate engineering students entering their junior, senior years or masters. So this is a great opportunity. We really encourage you, if you have interns or co-ops at your firm, to share this scholarship availability with them. So hopefully they can apply for the next year and receive some really good scholarship dollars. Finally, as previously mentioned, we are working to hire a new workforce development director. This person will join our ACEC Indiana staff team. It will be a full-time staff position, and they will be focused on these efforts of, outreaching to K through 12 schools to develop the long-term pipeline, strengthening those connections with ABET accredited schools, and then regional civil engineering programs around the state of Indiana. And then really working to sell the case for a civil engineering career in the state of Indiana. What makes this a good, sustainable job and a good career for their future. So definitely reach out to ACC staff if you think you might know someone who has that workforce development experience and we can certainly, consider them for that position available and share with them all the good work that we do at ACEC Indiana. So how to get plugged in? Shelby Dunn will be sending out an invitation to volunteer with National Engineers Week, probably towards the end of this calendar year, as we really need to gear up and get lots of volunteers to make those school presentations. So we encourage you and to encourage other colleagues and team members at your firm to volunteer for that. There's really no training necessary, I guess I would say. We do have an orientation. So we have some really good PowerPoint templates and everything that we can equip the volunteers with to make them feel confident when they go out and make those school presentations to the students. Share the scholarship opportunity with other co-ops, interns at your firm. And of course, share activities back and forth. We want it to be a two-way street with your alma mater. If you graduated from an ABET accredited school in Indiana or, surrounding states, share with them the opportunities that we have with our scholarship. And we want to hear about their career fairs and other ways that we can plug in. So just try to keep us connected with what's going on at the universities.
Morning. Thanks, Colleen. I'm Kurt Heidenreich. I'm going to discuss some of the additional resources that we have with ACEC. One in particular kind of piggybacks on what Colleen was talking about with the workforce development, which is a pretty large issue for most member firms. Recruiting and retaining employees is a big deal. Every year, ACEC has a annual salary and benefits summary that is done, or survey that is done. And that gives you information about what other firms are paying, kind of salaries, bonuses, and benefits that they have. And if you participate in that as a member firm, you get that for free as soon as it's available. Non-participating member firms will receive it at a discounted price. I think it's $500, but it's a later as it's available. And then non-participating firms have to pay $1,000, I believe, and receive it even later than that. So it's good information to have if you're trying to keep your current employees and know what to pay other employees that are coming in. ACEC also has a connection at INDOT and can get spec books that are printed that some of us still like to have, and we get that for a pretty reasonable price when it's available. So in addition to all of the great Indiana benefits that we have as being a part of ACEC Indiana, collectively, the national ACEC has 3,500 firms, as you heard before, about 600,000 different people that are involved. So they can create these trusts that they've set up and get buying power. And all the trusts are run by member firms and people that are involved and get to benefit from it. So you get the advantages of this buying power, and I wanted to talk about a few of these. First is the ACEC Business Insurance Trust. And that gives you the benefits of it being tailored, some of these things directly for firms that are AEs, and has the ability to get you advantages from a cost benefit. The next one I wanted to talk about was the Life Health Trust. And we're members of this. It's through UHC, United Healthcare, biggest health organization, I guess, insurance company in the nation. They have a great program, and you get the benefit of having so many firms that are combined in this, as opposed to you trying to go out and find this insurance yourself. It's been a great benefit for our firm, I know that. The last one is the Retirement Trust, and this is an interesting one in that ACEC National in the Retirement Trust has about $2 billion. As such, they have gotten some great low cost, very low expense ratio funds. The date-based retirement fund, for instance, is from Fidelity, and it has a lower expense ratio than you can get anywhere in the nation. They also have this new cap trust connection that gives you, each person in your firm will have their own financial advisor that is separate from the trust, so that you're getting information from somebody that does not benefit from making decisions. They're just giving you, every one of your employees, an individual treatment on how to, what investment strategies they have available for them, where they stand, and what decisions they need to make. So it's really good information, really good trust. I would highly recommend that you'd look into them, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody about our involvement in it. We are involved in all three of them, and have found great benefit from it. So that's, I guess that's where the information I have. Let me know if you need anything from me.
Thanks, Kurt. So I know we're kind of running up on time here, so I'll wrap us up with the sponsorship opportunities that we offer, as well as some upcoming events that you guys can get involved in, and then I'll turn it back over to Drew for questions. So we have multiple sponsorship opportunities throughout the year, as well as our annual sponsorship program, which really helps your firm increase visibility throughout ACC Indiana membership. We have these opportunities both virtual and in person throughout the year, including our Engineering Excellence Awards, our Scholarship Golf Outing, and then within our Membership Directory app, which is free in your app store. You're able to download that. And then we have the following sponsorship levels, including platinum, gold, silver, and bronze, and these can all be customized to better suit your firm's needs. So on our website, we have our full listing that you can take a look at, and you can reach out to staff if you're interested. This follows the calendar year, so we'll start promoting our annual sponsorships this fall. And then we hope to see you all at an event soon, so you can scan this QR code here. I think a lot of us talked about those events that are coming up, but we really hope to see you, especially at the Coffee with Colleagues, so we can get to know you guys a little bit better. And Drew, I will hand it back over to you for questions.
Yeah, I would love to get some questions from folks. I don't see any presently in the chat, but maybe there's some in the Q&A. Or if you could just kind of chime in on any of those and get those questions answered, that'd be great. While you're pondering your question that you're going to ask, because I'm sure you all are going to ask at least one or two. Colleen, do you want to give a test drive on the website and show that?
Absolutely. Thanks, Drew. So just some real quick access points for you all. If you are newer to ACEC or not as familiar with our website, we're at acecindiana.org up here. You can see we have a number of drop downs at our top rail. So the first kind of gives you an about. So some things to point out. We have a membership search here, which is where we direct your clients so that they can find members based upon location or firm services, etc. So that's in the about section. We also have underneath of there information pertaining to our board of directors listing, the pathway to leadership, and the strategic plan that Drew mentioned. Under advocacy, you can find information related to our state and national PACs that Drew mentioned as well. Under the awards, you see all the available awards programs with ACEC's membership. And so probably the most premier one would be that Engineering Excellence Awards that Shelby mentioned. Under the committees tab, we have a committee page for each of our 12 active committees. So if you're not involved in a committee, but you want to see an update of what they're discussing, action items, etc., you can go to their website and you'll see like all the recent minutes that you can click on and check out what they're up to. Under the education tab is where you can find out information about the continuing education courses we offer online, the leadership program, and our scholarship program. And then under the resources tab, you can click here to purchase the salary and benefit survey results. You can learn more about the trust, purchase spec books, or some really good resources for principals and owners. So one question that did come up through the Q&A function, how do you apply for the ACEC Emerging Leaders Program? So just to clarify, if you're discussing the Emerging Professionals Program, which is ages 35 and under suggested, there's no need to apply. We have open events throughout the year that are organized by our Membership Engagement Committee. But if you They do have their own website page. This is again for the emerging professionals group that is ages 35 and under. You can see information for that group on this page, and then you can submit this because we're constantly capturing as there are new employees hired on at the firm, so we can capture some good information and make outreach to those individuals. If you are just asking about the engineering leadership program, there is information on our website here. Again, as I think Michael mentioned, we are full on those 24 slots for this year's program that starts in November of 2022. But you can email Shelby Dunn if you would like to get on the wait list for the 23-24 program, which would be highly recommended. And so her email was on, she sent out the email for the reminder update. So you should have Shelby Dunn, sdunn@acecindiana.org's email if you would like to get on the wait list for the engineering leadership program. Any other questions we can assist with?
Why don't we go ahead and pull back up the events list? Great. And if there are no more questions, then fantastic, and we appreciate you joining us. I would encourage you to take a look at these opportunities here, because these are the immediate opportunities right in front of you to get engaged. If you do come and participate in any of these, please make a point to come up to staff or to any of the Mike, Kurt, or myself at any of these events, and let us know, kind of any questions you might have or what opportunities you're looking to do to get involved further in ACEC, because we'd love to see you more involved and engaged. We all find it extremely beneficial for our firms. And I think if you get more engaged on your own side of things, you will find those benefits as well. So thank you very much. Appreciate everybody's time this morning. Thank you, staff. Thank you to Mike and Kurt for your participation. And thank you all very much for listening.